am going to give you proof in this video that we are living in a matrix. It is my increasing belief that third dimensional Earth ended in 1999. Listen, there's no coincidence that the movie The Matrix was made in 1999. I do believe that that movie is prophetic. It has been my experience because I used to work in the arts. I was an actor and a screenwriter and a musician and those kinds of things. And it has been my experience that artists do often, without realizing it, actually prophesy. They communicate truths to everybody else through their art. And as time goes on, the Matrix movie, especially the first one, has been more and more prophetic about what we are experiencing. And I'm old enough. I've been around. I was born in 1963, so I lived a good chunk of my life, about half of my life, through the 20th century. And I can tell you that there's a huge difference. And we're going to get into some of those things, but I'm going to get into some evidence that proves that the human race has stopped. It has stopped moving, learning, and evolving in the third dimension. And what we are right now is we are living in a matrix placeholder. This isn't a real world. It's not even the third dimensional reality. It is a placeholder world. And the only reason that we are here is because we have to choose what the next world is going to be. So I encourage you to make that conscious choice about what the next world is that you want to live in. Now, it's not enough just to make the choice. You have to take action. Action is the most important part of this. And this is where most people fail. In fact, everybody who fails at shifting, it may not be because they don't realize what's going on and they haven't decided what they want. The problem is that they are being prevented from taking actions upon that choice. So in this video, we're going to talk about ways that you can do that. So let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, so proof that we live in a matrix, the 3D Earth ended in 1999. This I don't believe this is a direct quote. By the way, in case you don't know, The Matrix, when it was made, I was an actor in Hollywood and I played the Neo character for the casting. And what I would do is I would sit on one side of the table and the actors would come through and I would read the part of Neo. I had the script for the original Matrix and I didn't keep it because I didn't think it was going to turn into anything. It just seemed like some weird little science fiction thing. Had I any idea, I would have kept that, and I don't know. Who knows what it would be worth now. So I find it interesting that I had that experience. Anyway, so I don't believe this is a direct quote from the movie, but it's absolutely true. The Matrix in the movie was redesigned to resemble Earth circa 1999 at the peak of human civilization. Now, at the time that they made that literally was the peak of human civilization because that was their, that was their current world and reality. So, but I'm here to tell you that that is actually true. Now, not in the way that you might think, because it's not that we didn't create more technology. By the way, let's be clear, the technology that you have, all of the technology is level 0 in comparison to what the elites have. The elites have technology on the same level as extraterrestrials. There's free energy machines out there. They have the ability to go faster than the speed of light. They have the ability to create as you're now being programmed to finally believe, for different reasons, that human beings have created spaceships and have everything that you see in any science fiction, and this is a quote from the people involved in these programs, that everything you see on Star Trek and Star Wars we have and beyond. So the technology that we have is virtually zero compared to that. But all of the technology that you use, the computer that you're using, the internet, your phone, your Apple Watch, whatever the hell it is, your car, certainly. I mean, your cars haven't the cars are the same as they were 100 years ago. There's really no difference. But so technology has progressed. But even this level 0 technology that you have, which is so much more advanced than it was in 1999, has nothing to do with benefiting your life, even though you think it does. It is 100% created and given to you and sold to you for the sole purpose of being able to control and monitor you. It has nothing to do with making your life better. In fact, just to give you an example, when I was in Australia during the lockdowns, here in the States there were lockdowns. I was in Queensland, Australia. They had blocked it off, so we weren't locked down. But I had to have on my phone an app that told the government where I was 24 hours a day. And if I was going to go somewhere to, buy something or go to the store or get some food, I had to use my app to show that I had gone into the store, And that's so in case somebody had gotten sick, then what they would do is they would round up everybody and put them into camps. And the way that they would do that is they're monitoring your movements all the time. That's what a cell phone is designed. And bear in mind, the cell phone was originally designed for the military. Everything that you have of high degrees of technology was first used in the military, and when it became necessary in a state of war to monitor the enemy, which is you, then they let you buy these technologies so that they could control you, manipulate you, and monitor you. Let's just be clear about that. So, but if we go back to, this idea that the Matrix was redesigned to resemble Earth in 1999 at the peak of human civilization, it doesn't mean that 1999 the civilization had all of the technology. It means that human beings were at this stasis point where they had reached the civilization itself, the groups of countries and people and the global society itself had reached a peak where human beings and society could go no further within the third dimensional framework. Let me explain that. So that peak of civilization is where humans had just enough material wealth to have something to work for and just enough misery to keep them from questioning their reality. So if you watch The Matrix, there's that part where Agent Smith explains why they chose Earth 1999, and they said they had created the first Matrix was a perfect heaven for humans, but humans hated it. It was too perfect, and so they kept trying to wake up. They knew it wasn't real. And so they found that the perfect balance between the two was when human beings were able to have the experience that they were able to work for wealth so they could have possessions, but they were controlled enough that they were still miserable. And human beings liked to be miserable. This is extremely important, because what is happening now is sort of like the mirror of this, but the actual heaven on earth is being made available to you. But people reject it. I know because I myself have been there and I have felt my own human 3D self really try and resist it. And I have worked very hard to overcome my resistance. Everybody listening to me, those of you who've been watching my channel, you know, this has got to be the strangest channel, I think, on YouTube. Because I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of followers, many of whom really like this channel. They can't get enough of it. But they're unwilling to do the work, to experience the things that I teach. They're unwilling to take the actions. And yet they follow my channel. Even there's you know who you are. There are people out there that all they do is interact with me through the comments, and you act like we're best buds. You know, I've never met you, I've never worked with you, but you act like we're really close and we're best buds. And, you know, this is a good example. One person said, "I've never done any of your meditations. I think mine are better." And then he went on to talk about how we're connected and we're the same. And it's just like, you know, what reality are you in that you can talk like that? People are unwilling to take the actions. They can sense that what I'm saying, that what I've experienced and what I'm teaching, they can sense that I have a connection to something beyond this. But they're unwilling to take the actions. Watch the channel, watch the videos, you know, all as much as they can, but they won't take any action. You know who you are. The reason why you won't take any action isn't because of whatever excuses you come up with. The reason why you won't take actions to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, to do the 5-element Maoshan practices, to do any of the stuff in the shop at thunderwizard.com. Your reasons for not doing that have nothing to do with whatever you tell me. You don't have the money, you don't have the time, oh, I already do something else. It's because you're unwilling to let go of your misery because you understand it. I know because I have experienced it. I have been working my whole life, but especially the past 3 years, I've been working my tail off to say yes to the new reality that is coming. It has been the most difficult thing I've ever done. That is why this is so true. Where humans had just enough material wealth to have something to work for and just enough misery to keep them from questioning their reality. Because when you start experiencing true bliss, you will realize this is a fake world. Now, all of you on here, you talk about this. You'll talk about how we live in a matrix, but when it comes to leaving the matrix, you know, just to give you an example, there are some people that believe that there's a matrix at the North Pole. And they absolutely believe that if you were to walk through that matrix at the North Pole, you would go into another world. And my response is, what are you doing here? If I believed that, I would absolutely find a way to get to the North Pole. Absolutely. So the fact that you haven't gone there to exit into that matrix means you don't want to exit. Complain all you want. You love it here. You're not willing to do the work. You're not willing to take action on the choice. I am here to help you do that. So at the bottom, 3D reality is based on greed and misery. And that's why it came to an end. 3D reality is not 5D. 5D is just a word. But 5D is based on the complete opposite of that. Three-dimensional reality is the total inverse, the opposite of what true existence is. I know because I've been there. And my job is to help you make the choice to go there. I can't take you there. You have to go. You have to make the choice, and then you have to act correspondingly. There is no more time left. No more time to screw around. Things are going to get harder and harder. If you think it's hard now, waiting is only going to make it more challenging. So the reason why that 3D reality came to an end is because there was nothing more for the human soul to learn in this third dimensional reality that is based on greed and fear and misery. Everything has been achieved, and the height of it, when the energy was at its height so that the human soul could figure out and learn its true self in the most efficient way in the 3D reality, that ended 2000. So let's get into some reasons why I believe that it's been proven that reality ended in 1999. So every decade in the 20th century was radically different, right up until 2000. Now I know that because I lived it. And I can tell you that styles were changing so fast, like 5 years. 5 years, the styles of everything were so radically different. And the truth is now, there is no style. You know, I'm bald. Now, in the 70s, you couldn't do that. If you didn't live in the 70s, you don't know how radically... I mean, this is why skinheads were such a big deal in the 80s. Because to have a bald head was literally the worst possible thing you can do. That's why if you see old men and they comb their hair over and it looks ridiculous, Trump, they do that because in the 70s, if you were bald, you know, you were worse than like out of style. You were frightening. You had to be, you know, you wouldn't, you know, there was Kojak and maybe, you know, but nobody could really do that. The only people that got away with it were people that had cancer. Then, you know, if you were bald, they go, oh my God, do you have cancer? So I couldn't walk around in the 70s like this. Now you can be bald, you can have hair down to your ass, you can have hair up in girl styles, you know, the stuff that guys do to their hair now. They put the little, you know, the little things in their hair and they look like little 12-year-old girls. You know, you can do that. You can have no hair. You can shave your head like this and then put a tiny little, you know, ponytail on the top like that. You know, that looks so ridiculous to me. The man bun. You can have just normal combed hair. You can have big mustaches. You can be completely clean shaven. You can be covered in tattoos. You can have no tattoos. All of it is acceptable. But all these things used to mean something. And they don't mean anything anymore because there is no style. So the 50s had a very specific style, and that was different from the 40s. It was radically different from the 40s. And then the 60s were radically, you have no idea how radically different the 60s were. Absolutely no idea if you weren't there. You have no idea what it was like to see men with long hair. It was, and beards. Oh my God, beards and long hair. It was so unbelievable. Of course, now it doesn't mean anything. Then you get into the 80s, and then people started, you know, having the spiked hair. I mean, that was, oh my God, your hair is short and spiked. Oh my God. You have these pants, weird pants with the balloon. And then in the 90s, there was a whole style in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, there's no new style. Same thing with music. There is no, right now, every style of music exists and it's all the same. Everybody can listen. There isn't, in fact, I know this because I've lived it. I've been saying it to myself for decades, but music has not changed since rap. Rap was the last major shift in music. And speaking for me personally, because I'm an old guy, I don't like rap because it's just childish. And the reason why it's popular is because that's the way little kids sing. And that's when music stopped. Music hasn't changed. You know, back in the late 60s when Black Sabbath came out, people think Black Sabbath is heavy metal. Black Sabbath is not heavy metal. By the way, there was no such term as heavy metal. Heavy metal showed up in the late 70s. When Black Sabbath was creating like Paranoid and War Pigs, you have no idea how absolutely revolutionary that it was. That the music was so dangerous that kids' parents wouldn't let you listen to it. When people heard it, and if you liked guitar music and you liked the heaviness of it, you'd never heard anything like that. Nothing had ever even come close to the power of that. You have no idea what it did. It was so transformative. Nothing like that has happened. There hasn't been any music that's come forth that's been so dynamic and it doesn't. Everything is based on everything else. You know, the death metal where they sing like that. That's because they can't do anything. They can't make it harder. They can't change it in any way. They can't turn it into something. So the only thing they can do is, but it's the exact same thing. It's speed metal with a guy who's just making ridiculous noises in his throat. It's because there's nothing to build on. There's nothing to change. Everything has reached a peak. It reached the peak 1999. The clothes, the styles, the music, hair, everything changed. And everything stopped transforming right around 2000. That's when everything got boring. It's boring as hell right now. All right, since 2000, there has not been any noticeable change in style, hair, clothing, music, or film. I forgot about that. Film, it's so obvious that movies are now nothing but propaganda. It is so obvious. Movies are nothing but propaganda. And there hasn't been any, if you look at how many remakes there are, all they're doing now is they're remaking old movies from the 50s on up to 2000. Nothing new. No new ideas are coming to people's mind. There is no new anything. That's because we're not in a real world anymore. Because up until 2000, even though it was the third dimension, it had a purpose. And the purpose of the third dimension was to put pressure on the soul so that incarnated beings would find their true self. And they would learn from the mistakes of not living their true soul. And now it's just gotten weird. It's just nonsensically weird. Now, if you're under the age of 25, or I should probably under the age of maybe 35 or 40, you don't know that. You don't know how dynamic and interesting the world was. And especially the feeling that you could accomplish something. There was still the feeling that you could go and accomplish something, that you could go and get money and wealth and have a good life. The dream of owning a home and being able to have enough wealth so that you could go and do things and live your life, that's gone. That was still around up until 2000, especially right after 9/11. Right after 9/11. 9/11 is the perfect example of that. Because that was so bizarre. And of course now it's obvious. It was such an obvious overreach in hindsight. It's so obvious that it was an inside job. That shows that the elites who were controlling the world, it shows that they had come to the end of their ability to create a matrix, a 3D matrix that allowed people to have this exact feeling where they had just enough material wealth to have something to work for and just enough misery to keep them from questioning their reality. It's exactly what life was like. It's exactly what it was. You were miserable, but you could go and be something. You could do something. Nobody feels that anymore. And 9/11 was the proof that that had come to an end. There was nothing left to create. So technology has increased, but only enough to monitor you. Mandela effects began after 2000 and are increasing. This is proof to me. Again, you may not be old enough to know, and maybe you don't care. But again, the greatest example I have is, well, there's a few really good ones, but the one that I use the most is JFK's assassination. I was born literally the year that he was assassinated. So that means that I spent my upbringing, my little kid up into my teens, we were flooded continuously with the images of his car. And so I know exactly what his car looked like. I can see it in my mind. I know exactly what it was. And I showed this to somebody who's like 15 years younger than me not too long ago. And I said, look, you know what the Mandela effect is? And there wasn't really a response. And I said, okay, so tell me, how many people were in JFK's car when he was assassinated? And the person thought and goes, there was 4 people. I said, no, there were 6. And then I said, look it up. And then they Googled it and they saw the car and they said, what is that? Because there was now, instead of a 2-bench, a passenger car, there was this 3-bench, 6-seated, weird thing that didn't exist before. And this person was like, what am I looking at? This is, what? Totally flipped them out. You don't know that if you didn't live there. If you didn't live during that time, you don't know that's what really happened. It wasn't an alternate reality. It's that the past is being changed because we're not in a real world anymore. All of the Mandela effects to me are proof of that. This is not a real world. It is a holding world where it's like a pixelated holding world. I mean, let's be honest. How many people here really feel joy, really feel happiness, really feel hopeful, really feel fulfilled? How many of you feel that way? You could do that in the past. Can't do that anymore. It just does, nothing sticks. Before 2000, humans were able to convince themselves they could prosper. Now it is virtually impossible to buy homes, cars, and rent apartments. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. There are people now. One of the latest things I'm hearing is that people who have spent their whole life paying off their mortgage, they're now in their 70s or their 80s. They've paid off their mortgage, their dream home. And now they can't afford to pay the taxes because the orchestrated housing crisis that's been created, where somebody will come in and they will assess the house at a much higher value than it is, like 3 or 4 times its worth. And so then, because of that, the state is able to charge 4 times the tax. And so now you can't even afford to live in the house that you own. Why? Because then they can come in and buy it out from underneath you. And it's turning the world into a renter's hell. I know, because I rent. It's a renter's hell. People can't afford to rent. They can't afford to buy. They can't afford to even sell their homes. Because nobody will buy it at what it's worth. Supposedly, what now the inflated worth that's thrown on it so that the taxes can be thrown up. This world is doing everything it can to prevent you from being happy. Look at what happened, during the pandemic. Look at all the people that. Look at what's going on in this world. If you're my age, you know what I'm talking about. The world always had problems, but it was never like this. It was never this crazy. It's now virtually impossible to buy homes, cars, rent apartments. The elites won't even allow you to think you will succeed. This is interesting. Again, that quote, of course it's not a quote, but that sentiment where humans had just enough material wealth to have something to work for and just enough misery to keep them from questioning their reality. The elites, I've been saying this, for years now, that the elites are idiots. If they could still be the top 1% and have all of the wealth and all of the power and still use humanity as their slave race. But if they just allowed people the ability to make enough money to buy homes and to have a jet ski and, go and do stuff on the weekends, if they just allowed people to do that, nobody would care. There would be just enough greed that was satisfied that would keep them in that matrix. But the fact that the elites won't even let you do that, it means that this has come to an end. It means that this matrix the flywheel is now loose. It's just spinning. It's getting no traction. It's over. This is not a real world. Stop waiting. You've got to make a decision. What world do you want? And when you make that decision, you must act on it. Everything on this channel requires you to take action. Why do you think I've been going on here saying, hey, listen, if you guys don't subscribe, I got to go. And less people are subscribing. There's a few reasons, but one of them is people aren't willing to act towards what they want because it's too frightening. You complain about being in a matrix, you complain about being in a slave world, but you're unwilling to take the actions, the revolutionary actions to change. And you're going to have to look at yourself. You're going to have to confront it. Everything I teach, all of the energy practices I teach, will force you to confront that within yourself. And here's what happens. It's always been this with everything that I've taught. Here's what happens. First, people experience it and they go, oh my God, this energy is amazing. I feel so good. And then their life starts to get better. And then all of a sudden they have to face real stuff on the inside. And then they turn around and they walk away. It's been, ever since I started teaching the Maoshan 5 element stuff, people started doing that. So if I had to pick one, the most powerful would be the Maoshan 5 element practices, for sure. Absolutely. I think I talk about it here in this video, in fact.
We harness energy drawn from other dimensions of the multiverse to cast spells, to conjure shields and weapons, to make magic. your senses.
All right, so my experience with that practice, those practices that you saw me doing, up until I started working directly with light beings in their dimension, that was the single most transformative, the single most challenging. And I used to teach that to people. When I used to teach that to people, they'd show up and, the first few weeks they would talk about, oh my God, the energy is amazing. I've never felt anything like it. And then they'd disappear. And I'd tell them before they started, I would say, listen, if you're going to do, this is what I used to do. If you're going to do this, you have to commit to it for 6 months or I won't teach you. And you have to show up to every single class, no matter how you feel, because you are going to face the most difficult challenges within you. And if you're not willing to show up and look that and keep taking action towards it, it's a waste of your time and my time. That's what I used to do when I used to teach that. And the fact I wasn't allowed to teach it. The fact that I am teaching it on video would have made my teachers flip their lid. They would have come looking for me. In fact, my teacher who passed away not too long ago, he found out I was doing it and he got very upset because this stuff is so powerful. But that's just one example. And I can't stress to you how important it is to get out of the mindset that is being thrust upon you. We're no longer in the mindset of 1999, where you're trapped in the matrix of constantly chasing after more wealth and more security, which is just out of reach, and you can get a little bit and you've almost got it. Some people get rich, a lot of people are poor, but you had a middle class then. You could still be middle class and be able to function. And now you can't. And that's gone. And so trying to go after that, going after the money, going after the fame, going after look what's happening to the elites. Look what's happening to the movie stars. Look at the celebrity class. Look what's happening to them. They are coming apart because it's all coming apart. The whole thing is coming apart. There is no more celebrity class that tells us what to think and what to wear and how to feel. That's not working anymore. You must choose. If you keep going down the path of trying to be loved, trying to be accepted, trying to fit in, looking for that cushy job. Now, not too long ago, somebody said to me when we were talking about finding your true soul desire, somebody said, well, I think what I'm going to do is just go find a cushy government job. Well, guess what? You can't do that anymore either. Doge is getting rid of all the cushy jobs. You have to choose. If you think by continuing to do what you've been doing, you're going to be okay, you're heading towards a meat grinder. Make a choice. If you choose to go the path of 5D, the path of ascension, the path of awakening, you have to take actions toward that. I give you the tools to take those actions. If you just sit around and think that, whatever, drinking ayahuasca and smoking weed and talking about it is going to work for you, it's not. I want to help you with that. So, what else? So the elites won't even allow you to think you will succeed. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Smart cities are a real thing. Look at what happened to Lahaina. Look at what happened to California. Look what's happening right now in Long Island. Things that are about to happen in other states like Arizona. They're working towards that. There is no more, working towards your dream. You are now going to be forced into living in a smart city. And if you don't want that, then you have to choose the other reality where there is no banks, there is no government, there is no money, there is no status. There is only your soul. That is the only other option. And if you don't take actions towards that, guess what's going to happen? And this is my guess. When, I don't know. Maybe it's already happening, I don't know. But at some point what's going to happen is the frequencies are going to shift to such a degree that people will think that they're still in reality, and they will be in a spin-off matrix that will go into smart cities. And, one thing that E.T. said to me a couple of years ago, they said, people are going to think that you died. Now, I don't know what that meant, but I think it might mean that there's going to be people who are going to shift into a lower world. They won't even realize it. They won't even know that anything's changed. They'll just realize that some people are dead and some people are gone. Those are the people that made the shift and went to the other world. I think right now we're in between. We're not in 5D, we're not in the 2D, we're in between. And this in between is a real world as well. We can shift beyond that. But if you don't take actions, if you don't make the decision and then take the actions, it won't happen. Now, I'm not the only game in town. There are other places to go, other ways that you can make those choices. But I'm giving you all the ones that I know of. So I encourage you. All of these links are here to just do something. As long as you're doing something going into the direction, you're going in the right direction. If you're going in the right direction, good for you. If you're doing something in the right direction, good for you. Before 2000, people were not confused about identity or gender. This is interesting. I was just watching, a clip that came up from a movie from, I think it was the 80s. And Robin Williams and I can't remember who else. And they played these two gay men that were in this relationship, and their children were getting married. I forget the name of it. Some of you might know the name of the movie. But there was just one scene where Robin Williams' character's husband was, more feminine. And he was complaining about, you just don't like it because you're like the man and you know everything, and you don't like me because I'm a woman. And he goes, you're not a woman. And in the theater, everybody laughed because it was so ridiculous that a gay man who was very feminine actually wanted to believe that he was a woman. It was funny to us. But now it's not. It's now you can just decide your gender. And it's so crazy that not only are people confused about their identities, their pronouns, and their gender, kids are now being allowed to identify as animals. I couldn't believe when I heard this, but this is a real thing. Little kids in schools have to be allowed to defecate into cat boxes if those kids identify as cats. That stuff only happens in a world that isn't real. Among people who know that they're not in a real world. We couldn't have done that 30 years ago. It wouldn't have flown. It doesn't mean that there weren't gay people and trans. There were trans people, but I can remember once a trans guy who had been, physically operated on and changed, and he was being, it was on some talk show. And somebody said something about, well, now you know what it's like to be a woman. And she said, wait a minute, I'm not a woman. I'm a man. And I've altered my physical body so that I can be as close to a woman as possible, but I'm not a woman. That doesn't happen now. People who haven't even been physically changed are absolutely adamant that they are something that they're not. Nobody can even be gay or feminine. Nobody can even choose to do that. You have to do all kinds of things that you're just being gaslit about reality everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. We're not in a real world. So, If you want to be in a real world, then I hope you will, like me, choose one. I've chosen one. And I've chosen the one that's been shown to me by my higher dimensional extraterrestrial friends. But we have to make it. That's what we do every time we do these live guided interdimensional meditations. We are choosing to create those worlds. But it's also important here, as you saw in the video I put earlier, that our physical energy meridians actually have the power to channel into other dimensions. You have to use that. I don't know what else to do. It's not enough to just think about it. You have to actually use your spiritual technology, which is your meridians, your chakras, your physical body. So I teach all of that. So I encourage everybody to go here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at whatever level you want and start doing the practices. Go to the shop and look at all the practices there. Look at the 5-element Maoshan. If you've been waiting to do it, now's the time. Stop screwing around. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. I always do. There's no shortage of videos. You see that when I'm wrong, I admit it. But based on what I see, we need to use our technology within our body to shift. And I encourage you to do that. Look at all the things that we have. There's a new one, channel.thunderwizard.com. Everybody who works with me, every single person who works with me at the thunderwizard.com site has an apprentice or in any other fashion. Every single person that works with me and follows all of my directions consistently. Some of you did. You were following my directions and then you stopped working with me. And you have all kinds of excuses why you're doing that. Well, that's your choice. Every single person that's worked with me and every single person that's been consistent and followed my directions, every single one of them has transformed drastically. And the more that you do these practices, the closer you will get. I'm asking you to come along with me and to do these practices, to make the choice and take the actions towards achieving that. That's how it's going to work. If you're waiting around for 5D to come and get you, it's not going to work that way. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this. Proof that we live in a matrix. 3D Earth ended in 1999. And again, you have all of these links to go check out things and help us out. We have another live guided interdimensional meditation tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. They're free. Everybody's welcome. If you can't make the live stream, you can go to the live section on the channel and watch them. Most powerful thing you can do. I'm going to create another, I believe I'm going to create another apprenticeship slot where I will take you through steps that I've gone through that light beings have taught me about shifting to higher levels. But I have to see that you're interested. And the way that I know that you're interested is that you take the actions, you subscribe. You can always upgrade your subscription, to another if I bring a new one on. I need to see that you guys are interested. Okay? So I've said I need 20 people, right? I've said, that's not what I want. I've said that I need 20 people. So far, I've got one person out of the challenge. 19 more of you. I need 19 more of you to go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong or above. I need 19 more of you to do that in order for me to keep this channel going and expand on these. I want to expand on these practices and teach you more. In order to do that, I need to know that you guys are with me. All right, so I hope you're doing well. I love you all. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Please be very good to yourselves. And I will see you all very soon.